Okay, we're on Module 5, Lesson 3 on your own. You can find this on page 155, and if you flip it over on page 156, it will be there too. A track coach has runners perform drills to practice for a track meet. Each runner is supposed to run 5 sprints for every 4 full laps. Megan runs 11 sprints for every 8 full laps. Then Megan use the correct ratio for her running drills. Well, let's take a look at the hint. Multiply each number in the first row by the same value to find the equivalent ratios. And use the first row of the table to write the equivalent ratios. So to get from 5 to 10, I multiply by 2. So I'm going to do 4 times 2 is 8. Then I have 4 times 3 is 12. 4 times 3 is 15. 4 times 4 is 16. 5 times 4 is 20. Now let's look at Megan. So from 8 to 16, I multiply by 2. So 11 times 2 is 22. To get from 11 to 33, I multiply by 3. So 8 times 3 is 24. To get from 11 to 44, I multiply by 4. So 8 times 4 is 32. Okay, and I check it. I got it all right. So you may need to scroll back up so you can see it. I have my book out so I can look at it. Having your book out would be a good idea if you have your book with you. Part B. Compare the ratio of sprints to laps that each runner is supposed to run to the ratio of sprints to laps that Megan ran during practice. What row in each table has the same first or second quantity? How can you use that quantity to compare the ratios? Select the answers from the drop-down lists to correctly complete the sentences. So our hint, look at the sprints column or the laps column in both tables to see what numbers are the same. And if you have the same number in one column, you can compare the ratio using the values in the other column. So if we look at this, do you see how we have an 8 right here in laps and an 8 right here in laps? So in the second row, up here, we have the same number of laps. So in the second row in table 1 and the first row in table 2 have the same second quantity, which is 8 laps. Because if I look up here, I have 8 laps right here, and I have 8 laps right here. I'm then going to finish doing this part. I can compare the number of sprints to compare the ratio. So I'm going to compare the different sprints. Did Megan use the same ratio of sprints? No, she did not. Because if I look up there, Megan did 11 sprints, and each runner was supposed to do 10 sprints. And it's not equivalent. Suppose that Megan wants to run more sprints and laps. How many of each could she run so that her total sprints and total laps are in the ratio that the coach wanted? So Megan could run 4 more sprints and 4 more laps. Then she will have run 11 plus 4 equals 15 sprints, and 8 plus 4 equals 12 laps. And her ratio would be equivalent to what the coach asked for. There we go. Number 2. Vivian scored 8 out of 10 on a quiz. Ramona scored 3 out of 4. Did Vivian and Ramona get equivalent scores? So what they're asking us to do is they say 8 out of 10 is the same as blank out of 100. So to change that, I need to write 8 over 10, and I want to make 10 into 100. To do that, I'm going to multiply by 10 because 10 times 10 is 100. I multiplied by 10 on bottom, I have to multiply by 10 on top. So I get 8 times 10 is 80. So I get 80 over 100. Now I'm going to do that to 3 out of 4. So I'm going to say 3 out of 4, and they want to say blank out of 100. So we're looking for this right here. 4 times 25 is 100. And whatever we did down here, we have to do up here. 3 times 25 is 75. So we get 75. They did not get equivalent scores. Vivian's score was higher than because Vivian got 80. Number 3, which in your book, if you're doing it in your book, it's number 5. In art class, Greg makes gray paint by mixing 3 parts black and 8 parts with white paint, which is shown right here. While Tim makes gray paint by mixing 4 parts black and 9 parts white. Whose paint will be darker? So let's look on the chart here. So we find a matching number. So do you see we have a 12 here and a 12 here. So if I put 12, Greg did 12 parts black and 32 parts white. Tim did 12 parts black and 27 parts white. So which is going to be darker? It's going to be Tim's because Tim only put 27 parts white, whereas Greg did 32. So Tim's is going to be darker. They both used 12 parts black paint, but Greg used more white paint. Number 4, which is number 6 in your book. 2 pet stores both sell canaries and parrots. The ratio of canaries to parrots for each store is shown in the double number lines. So we have it right here. And we're going to see which ratio is equivalent. So if you see at pet store number 1, we have 6, 12, 18, 24. Let's look down here to see if we have any matching numbers. And then we have 9, 18. Oh, I said 18 before. So 18 parrots, 30 canaries. 18 parrots, 30 canaries. Those are the same thing. So yes, they are equivalent. Because, now this will probably be the hard part for you because we got it labeled down to 2. So yes, ratios are equivalent. Yes, the ratios are equivalent. Is it because they are both comparing the same number of canaries sold for every parrot sold, or both pet stores sell 30 canaries for every 18 parrots? And that is the correct one. Because the one up here, that kind of means like they're both selling the same amount, which is not the case. And our last one, it's number 5 here. It's number 7 in your book on page 156. A wildlife manager is stocking fish in several ponds. So this is a wildlife fishery staff stocking fish. The manager put 6 yellow perch for each pair of largemouth bass in its first pond. The manager's assistant put 54 yellow perch and 16 largemouth bass in the second pond. Did the assistant use the correct ratio of perch to bass in the second pond? So I'm going to go ahead and split my screen here. Bring this side up and let's see how we did here. So first pond, we have 6 perch. For each pair of largemouth bass. So pair means 2, and we're going to say largemouth bass. So I'm just going to write bass. So this is pond 1. So pond number 1. Pond number 2, we have 54 perch over 16 bass. So what we're going to do is we're going to try to get these numbers the same. We can either try to get the 2 to change to 16. So if I set these up next to each other, and 50, so I just took this fraction and moved it up there, or ratio, whatever you want to call it. If I'm going to make 6 into 54, I multiply by 9. To make 2 into 16, I multiply by 8. By 8. You see how 9 and 8 are different numbers? So if they were the same numbers, they'd be equivalent. But since they are different numbers, they are not equivalent. So we got it down to no, not equivalent. And it said no, they did not use the correct ratio. We have to figure out which one it is. So this one says the ratio of yellow perch to largemouth bass is 6 to 2, which is what they gave us right here for pond 1, which is equivalent to 15 over 18, not 54 over 16. And that is right. Because if I look over here, since I multiplied the top by 9, I should multiply the bottom by 9, and 2 times 9 is 18. And you are done with on.